Hey everybody, it's the one-man drywall army. I'm coming back at you today, and in today's video I am going to show you guys how to avoid bubbles when you are retexturing a home that has painted walls. Now, I think it's important to mention that bubbles usually never happen on the first coat. It happens on the second coat and after that. But in this video, I'm going to give you guys all the key pointers on how to avoid bubbles flawlessly throughout the entire job. By doing this and following my steps, I guarantee it's going to save you a headache, it's going to save you time, and it's going to save you money. But you're going to have to watch the entire video in order to fully understand why it works, how it works, and when it works. So you got to watch the entire video. Okay, so the first thing that we need to keep in mind is that on the first coat you're going to need to have the right mix of mud. Okay, so what I do is I use a 50-50 mix of mud. Now what the 50-50 mix of mud consists of is you got 50% mud out of the box, taping mud, the stuff with all the glues in it. That way you stick onto the wall nice. The other 50% is going to be a fast acting mud, and I generally use 45 or the 90-minute stuff. Now, by mixing the two compounds together, the reason why it works is because it allows you to get a second coat on the wall while it's firm but wet. So that's one thing that you need to just keep in mind. That's going to be critical to being able to get another coat onto the wall, is that the mud needs to be firm but wet. So if you attack, for instance, if you attack this type of retexture of walls on a painted surface with regular mud, you're either going to have to let it dry all the way in order to get another coat on, and by doing this, that's when the bubbles come. So you don't want to attack it that way. I've tried every type of mud out there, from lightweight to super lightweight to hot mud to box mud to tape mud, and on the second coat, if you let it dry past the point that that you're going to get bubbles, then you're going to have problems. So that's the whole reason why I use the 50-50 mix of mud on the first coat only. And so you got to remember that in order to put a second coat on the wall without having any bubbling, is that the mud needs to be firm but wet. The hot mud allows for the first coat to get firmed up, and the box mud allows it to stay wet. Now there is another thing that I think it's important for you to understand, is that there is a 1 hour window from all the homes that I've done using this process. There's a 1 hour window from the time that the mud sets up to the time that you're going to start having problems with bubbles. It's generally about a 1 hour window. So it doesn't matter if you're using 40-minute mud or if you're using 90-minute mud. From the time that mud sets up, you got to get the second coat on, and you got about an hour of window. But I use the 1 hour rule just because I know that there are potentials of bubbles, and I just don't want to deal with it. So yeah, you want to make sure that you are, not only you got the mud right, but you got to have the timing right as well. If you do one without the other, you're pretty much almost as good as not even doing it at all. So you got to follow those steps, and that's why I say watch the whole video. That way you can understand, and before you go ahead and try to attack a whole home that has been painted. You know, can you imagine having bubbles throughout the whole house and having to give it 3 coats? That would just be too much. So by just following everything that I'm saying in this video, it's going to save you a ton of headaches, because it's going to allow for you to flow systematically. Now, another thing that I want to mention is that you can only do so many walls at one time. You can't do the whole house and then turn back around and do a second coat. You can't do a first coat and then do a second coat over the whole house. Because then, you know, you're going to fall out of that 1 hour window, and then it's going to over cure, over dry, and then once again you're back to having bubbles again. So I can't even emphasize enough that 1 hour window works flawlessly. Okay, so with that being said, I've given you some information, and I'm going to continue to feed you some information as I'm demonstrating, and I'm going to show you guys firsthand how it works, and then I'm also show you firsthand how it doesn't work. Okay, so I got the 50-50 mix going with some 40-minute mud. I'm just going to skim it over this mock-up board that's already been primed in paint. I'm going to use this as my example. That way you guys can see firsthand everything that I'm saying is spot on. Okay, I'm going to skim it on, and then I will get back at you. Okay, so that's good right there. I've got a full skim coat on there. I'm going to let it set up for 40 minutes, and then I'm going to go ahead and attack one side just to show you how we'll get no bubbles. And then I'm going to let the other side freeze up beyond the 1 hour mark that I had explained earlier. And that way I want to demonstrate how that 1 hour time frame is by all means very important. So I'll see you guys in 40 minutes. Okay, so this thing is ready to throw a second coat on there. There's a couple areas that are slightly hot that got some lippage, and so the way that I deal with that before throwing a second coat on there is I just knife it down just to get the lippage off. That way it doesn't bleed through on the second coat. Okay, so I'm going to just skim half of it. It's going to be from here on back. I'm going to let the other side cure up. So you can see there's no bubbles, and that's the whole point that I'm making. If there was bubbles, this thing would be blown up right now. So I'm just going to go ahead and peel it off to get it nice and looking clean. But it's really all about the timing. If you time it wrong, you're just going to really be not pleased at what takes place. Now if I wait 1 hour longer, rest assured this whole thing is going to be full of bubbles. Okay, so there, I just showed you guys how to skim coat and retexture drywall that has been painted perfectly without any bubbles. Now I'm going to come back in an hour. I'm going to do the other side to demonstrate that we're going to have thousands of bubbles. So I'll see you guys in. Okay, so I'm going to do the it's been an hour, the sun's coming out, and I just wanted to show you guys the other side that I let over dry. And I didn't even let it go much longer than the hour cure time that I was talking about. So I'm going to show you firsthand why it's important to time it right if you want virtually no problems. Okay, so I'm going to give you guys a nice up close on it just to show you guys what I'm talking about. Can you imagine doing a whole job like this? And it all comes down to a 1 hour time frame. If you can get the second coat on 1 hour from the time that it firms up, you're going to be golden. But if you let it go for an hour and a half to 2 hours, this is exactly what you're going to be dealing with. Now I'm going to show you guys how to resolve the problem, but I suggest doing it the way I suggest at first, because even though we can correct this problem, it's going to take you twice as long, and as we all know, time. Okay, so we're gonna have to take it off. Pretty much pull the drywall mud off. Just take it off flat like that. Once you get it on there, just take it off. Okay. Okay, so this way seems like you gotta work it a lot more than you will if you do it the way that I showed you, my two-step process using the 1 hour timeline. Okay, so now that the board is wet again, you're gonna be able to go back over it with another coat. You're gonna still end up with some bubbles, but at the same time, it'll eventually take care of the problem. So it's not ideal to do it because you're still going to get some bubbles, and that forces you to keep working with it, and so that slows it down. Okay, so you can see, let me show you up close. This is after putting it on, taking it off, and then putting it back on again. You can still see some isolated bubbles, and there's no real thickness on there. It's pretty damn tight, so you're gonna have to play with it quite a bit, and that's just gonna be so much wasted time to have to do an entire house this way. It's just going to make you hate doing these type of jobs. So with that, Alright, so there you guys have it. Not only did I explain the process with you, but I also demonstrated on a mock-up piece of board on why doing my two-step process on how to avoid bubbles is really the best way to go. Because, like I said, would you rather skim coat the walls 3 times and still play with it for a long period of time after that? Or would you rather just skim coat it twice, come back, sand it, and be good? I do many homes like that by myself with absolutely no problems. And just by following my steps, I hope that you'll have the same success that I do. And with that, you guys stay safe and be blessed, alright?